Hello everyone and welcome back to another Wargame Red Dragon. Today we have another Take My Town scenario, so of course this is not a standard match. My opponent Vines and I have bartered over position and starting points and settled on defense of Delta by the Soviets while there is an incoming NORAD attack. So I have about 700 or so points on the defensive and my opponent has probably 1,000 or 1,100, I think was the settled terms, that's going to be coming in, trying to push me out of this town. Now, it's not capped, that isn't really a requirement, it's more of just a try to kill everything in here and take it yourself. So for my own forces, I do have Spetsnaz GRU and BTR-90s forward with Motostrelki and MTLBVs. The GRU are supposed to be a little bit of a scouting force. I was anticipating an attack across this bridge perhaps, or maybe from this direction in the north. Toward the south end, I have a big tank, T-72 OBR 1989, as well as a BMPT, sort of the backbone of this force, two squads of OSAs. These are 30-point excellent helicopter killers, and I was expecting more helicopters than planes, as there are some limitations on how planes can be used in this sort of contrived scenario. So we do have a lot of Motostrelki as well. I thought perhaps there's a chance of getting a little bit cheeky here and having the NORAD forces attack from the south, as that is totally within the rules for this, and I also have Spetsnaz GRU and VDV holding the center town. So that is the sum total of my own forces, and let's go ahead and wait for the NORAD forces to attack. Should be any second now. So the choice of Delta, by the way, was just because I thought, well, these woods might give me some prolonged infantry fighting ability. The town here it's pretty nice. I mean, there were expected positions, and I had expected, maybe some artillery fire or other sort of supporting fire against the town in the southwest, which is why I don't have anything there. Better to not have it get sniped right off the bat than to, put something valuable in an obvious location. In terms of sight lines, we have kind of okay sight lines with the OSAs. I mean, this one here is defending against the west, but can also shoot over some of these buildings here to the northwest, and the OSAs on this side are supposed to defend against whatever might be coming with the initial push, which I had thought was in just a second. Perhaps there's more banter going on over the exact rules of the match, as this is still something relatively new. But here it is, and we see mortars incoming, so the attack has commenced. Two groups of mortars, and that is a lot. So that's going to be smoke on the one side, and then I think that had meant to be smoke on the other side as well, but it was probably just a misclick there by my opponent. And yep, we see that it's fixed, so now there is smoke coming down from both sets of mortars, just trying to block a line of sight on this town, and he is in fact attacking from the north. Now, I have called out a bomber, a Yak-38M. This is a 70-point bomber, and I'm going after those mortar teams because I don't want that persistent fire. It can be decisive in infantry fights, but also the line of sight blocking can be very impactful. We have eyes on something, and I can't quite tell what it is here. It looks kind of like something mechanized, a little bit difficult to see. And we have more on the way. That's very clearly a tank, so there's a pair of Leopard C2 Maxuses, and my T-72 is moving over to try to get a kill there. But we do spot a longbow. Here comes the bombing run, and there's infantry headed into Bison, so a lot happening at once. The Yak-38 opens up with those bombs as C2s are attacking M2 LBVs, or MT-LBVs, and I unfortunately lose the bomber, but we do manage to get, it looks like, did we? I thought so. Yes, so those three mortars on that side are gone. That was actually worthwhile. Spetsnaz GRU opening up, Motostrelki opening up, but this is a huge push, and if I had used my bomber here, that would have been a very different story. Unfortunately, however, my infantry fighting vehicles are getting outclassed by Leopards, and the Spetsnaz GRU are very nice, but this is just an overwhelming amount of fire. Scratchets coming in, trying to provide some sort of backup to the Spetsnaz GRU as my BTR-90s get ambushed and taken out in the woods. So this forward position has been lost incredibly quickly. T-72 does get a shot off at one of the Leopards, taking a little bit of fire in return, but not too bad, as that shot was a bit of a miss. My Scratchets are getting overwhelmed, and I lose one of the OSAs to Leopard C2, as he is trying to get a line of sight on the longbow, but unable to quite do it. BTR-90s also just getting smacked, and this is turning from bad to worse. So T-72 OBR does open up with his Sphere ATGMs, and we're fighting against some recon vehicles here, the M55 1A1s. I do like those quite a lot, but longbows coming in, and let's see, one hit, two hits, T-72 just barely alive, but here comes a second ripple fire, volley, and down goes the T-72. So at this point, I'm very unhappy. I'm starting to think to myself, okay, I'm just going to get absolutely smacked through here. I mean, look at that. Most of my infantry are gone, my heavy tank is gone, much of my supporting elements are gone, but here come the OSAs, and that first shot does take down a Cobra, I believe it was, recon helicopter, BMPTs, and OSAs take out the longbow, and the splash damage is enough to take out a heavy hog as well. So it's a lot of point value of helicopters down all at one time. BMPT opening up. I should have turned off the main gun, but I think he was already using that tertiary. So Heavy Hog gets a little bit too close, BMPT opening up, and down it goes again. This thing is just providing incredible value to us, and I'm trying to keep him alive, moving him backwards through the woods to keep away from strong infantry. We also see an M113 ADATS, which could very easily end my BMPT's career as well. So at this point I was hoping, well, I was really wishing that I'd had a little bit more infantry in these woods. Probably wasn't worthwhile trying to hold the northern woods, so lesson learned there. And another MTLBV goes down, but you know, it's time to go on the offensive. So the M55s aren't going to be good forest fighters. We see that as well already from Motostrelki with those RPG-7s doing some pretty good work. VDV versus Delta Force is going to be a bit of a challenging engagement, and we are starting to lose a little bit. But town versus forest should be okay. Mortar rounds, however, are coming in, trying to pound the VDV's old position as there's more Delta Force. It looks like this was probably starting off as a double squad, but down to only one. And this double squad of Delta Force is getting into a surprisingly difficult fight against Motostrelki. So VDV are going to suffer at the hands of some Eric's squads there, so I'm moving them back. Now they were supposed to just go to this other building, but of course they're going out into the woods first because of reasons. But a single squad of Delta Force does go down, and this M163 takes the short end of a Vampire missile right to the face. Pretty good there for me as well, and now this fallback position is proving to be very difficult to crack without some sort of support. So those Heavy Hogs dying was probably a really bad thing there, as they could have sat back over on this side and shot in at engaged infantry. That would have been probably better use than having them get shot down by BMPTs, whose frag rounds are now mashing the end of those Delta Force, so they are gone, and the M55 is probably going to have a rough fight there as well. Oh no, actually, so the M55 I think does go down, or that was one of the Leopards, but the other two Leopards are in that side, and down goes my BMPT. So in terms of point values and what's left, this is all I've got. So I have a damaged double squad of VDV, Motostrelki, Spetsnaz GRU, and there's at least two C2 Maxuses in these woods. There's one of them right there. It's a little bit close, but my Motostrelki were otherwise engaged. Let's see what the VDV can do about it, if anything. Can we? That's proving a bit difficult. We do get some Canadian rifles down, and the VDV are moving forward into the woods, trying to take on those Leopards. One of them goes down. Let's see if we can get the other. It is stunned by Motostrelki, but now mortars coming in again, stunning and damaging my Spetsnaz GRU, and that ADATS really hasn't found a great spot here. So unfortunately that roll was quickly over, as my plane, my Yak, was lost right at the beginning of the match, and there wasn't really anything else for him to shoot at, because my heavy tank was taken out by a longbow, which, I mean, I guess it should have probably been one or the other, and now we can see that the Blue 4 offensive is running out of steam, as NORAD sort of has lost most of his tools. I'm now just trying to use the rest of those mortars, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit through this. There was a bit of verbal jabs going on as this was happening, because I was sitting there going, are you really going to run me out of all of your mortar ammunition before you move forward? So the VDV are just trying to make sure everything here is clear in the woods, and it looks like it. There's a Hempt over that side, and he's scouting with the Hempt vehicle, which is just always kind of annoying. So I had meant to shoot it, but we captured it before I could shoot it, and that Hempt allowed him to identify the position of my Motostrelki. In come the mortars. Pretty good use of it there, so I sent the Hempt back, and it gets captured again. Another Hempt coming up, trying to resupply, so the mortar fire could go on for a very, very long time here, and we're just trading Hempts, and it's the worst. Spetsnaz GRU and Motostrelki are moving away from this. I wanted to just guess wrong with those Lav Ms over and over and over again, and something has to change, because this is not really a great time. VDV get a shot on the Leopard C2 Maxus, and now all that's left on this entire push are mortars and an ADATS, but I wasn't sure of that. I thought there might be something that could still kill the VDV, and we have the mortars coming forward, as this is just a bit of a surrender at this point from the Blue 4 player. Lav Ms versus VDV in the woods isn't going to go that well, so they do die, and the ADATS gets revenge on that traitor Hempt. So down goes the ADATS, and that is a victory, however Pyrrhic for the USSR team, with a single double squad of Spetsnaz GRU, a single squad of Motostrelki, and a half-strength double squad of VDV-90 left defending Delta. So the beginning of that was really pretty poor, but we managed to outgrind in the woods and hold this town by the edge of our seats. That's all we've got for today. Thank you all for hanging around. We'll see you again real soon.